You're listening to the Vendor's Daughter podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Calderon, also known as the Vendor's Daughter. I started this podcast about 7 years into working at my family's business. At the time, and really ever since, I've been geeking out on two main topics: self-improvement and business growth and development. I firmly believe that the healthier we are, both mentally and physically, the better we show up for ourselves, our lives, and our businesses. So, on the show, we talk a lot about things like a positive mindset, why what you eat matters, why it's important to move your body, and how a gratitude practice can change your life. And because growing a business is my favorite topic ever, we also interview entrepreneurs from various fields so that they can share how they grew their business. Which means along the way, we'll also talk about things like email list, growing an Instagram, and knowing when it's time to hire your next employee. You guys, the only thing I might like to talk about more than business is coffee. I love coffee. So grab a fresh cup and listen in as we deep dive into all the things.
Perfect. Sounds awesome.
Cool. All right, Nicole, well, thank you so much for being on the show. For all of our listeners and viewers out there, would you mind introducing yourself and a little bit about your business?
Sure. I'm so happy to be here. My name's Nicole Lacovoni. I'm a financial therapist and a licensed psychotherapist. And I have worked in mental health for almost 20 years. That's really dating myself.
You do not look like you've had a career for 20 years.
Thank you. Well, you're only as old as you feel, right? And I
True.
will forever feel 27. So I'm just going to stick with that. But I've been working in mental health for a long time, and I have my own private practice that I have run for about 10 years. It's a small group mental health practice in Pennsylvania. So I see one-on-one clients for individual therapy. I specialized in couples therapy for about 7 years. And I also supervise and teach other therapists in my practice so they can do this work as well. And then I sort of landed into doing the work as a financial therapist by accident. It really wasn't my intention to do that work, but I experienced a financial crisis in my own life and really had to dig myself out of that. And along the way, I learned that my relationship with money was toxic. I was a very bad girlfriend to my money, so to speak. And that was really keeping me from growing my business successfully and making money in my business and managing my money well. So I found myself like $87,000 in debt, and my business was losing money every day. So that was like the slap across the face that I needed to do something different. So what I did was, being the couples therapist that I was at that time, I started treating my relationship with money sort of like a romantic relationship and applying the techniques and strategies I would use in couples therapy with my clients to my relationship with money. And it was just sort of like a big experiment to do that, but it really transformed the way that I was thinking and feeling about money. And in turn, that changed the way that I behaved with money. And as a result of that, I started making more money in my business. I multiplied my income times 5 in like 8 months. It was really impressive. And I paid off all of my debt, all $87,000 in 2 years. Yeah. So it was outstanding. Like I couldn't even believe that just changing the way that I was looking at money and tending to my finances more regularly and shifting the way I was feeling about money could make such a big difference. And I thought to myself, I can't be the only person that struggles with this, the only woman entrepreneur that, feels really complicated feelings when it comes to money. And so I just started reaching out to people and saying, hey, like if this is something that you struggle with, what I have learned in my own journey might be helpful to you. And I started doing individual financial therapy, which I call money therapy. I have a trademark program called Money Therapy now. And it's really just focused on helping women entrepreneurs heal their relationship with money, make more profit in their business in non-sleazy ways, and manage their money strategically. So it sort of led to like this second career for me, which has been really fun and really rewarding.
I love that so much. And there's a couple of things that you said in that. I want to get back to like the non sleazy ways in a minute because I feel like women in particular feel like making money, there's this stigma that has to be sleazy, or we put this
Yeah.
used car salesman thing onto it. And that's not the case. And I feel like men definitely don't worry about that. So
Yep.
we can get back to that. But one of the things that I loved is you said you started treating your money like a romantic relationship. So when you were being a quote unquote like bad girlfriend, what were you doing? And then when you started like showing up in a healthy way for that relationship, like what did that look like?
Yeah. So I used to talk smack on my money all the time, right? Like I would say, I want money to be there for me. I can't get enough of it. And then, I would complain about how there was never enough money and I was always doing without things that I wanted and, living
Mm,
paycheck to paycheck and those sorts of things. So when I say smack talking, I was doing that outwardly. Like I was complaining about my financial situation to other people, but more so, I was talking really negatively about money in my own mind, thinking that money is really hard to get and there's never enough and that sort of thing. So it's sort of like that clingy sort of girlfriend, like
yes.
I wanted more and more money, but then I treated it like dirt, I really neglected my finances. I was like the girl that pushed bills in the back of my desk drawer. So it was
Mm,
like out of sight, out of mind.
yep.
And they just kept piling up, piling up, piling up. But I would feel so anxious and overwhelmed looking at my finances that it was just easier to avoid it. Just brush it under
Hmm.
the rug, pretend there aren't any problems, pretend you don't have bills to pay,
Yeah,
don't look at the
100%.
bank account balance and, have ugly cries over the non existent money. But I learned the hard way that avoiding my finances didn't solve the problems. It just made them bigger and
Yeah.
more overwhelming and more anxiety provoking. And I would worry about money all the time. So I came to find that the financial stress I was under wasn't limited to my financial life. It spread into every part of my
Mm,
life. It distracted me from doing really good work with my clients because I was always thinking about money issues. It bled into my relationship with my husband because we were constantly fighting about money, which I think,
yeah.
is really common. It's the number one thing couples fight about is money. I was really distracted and disconnected from my kids. And that wasn't fun. That's not the mom that I wanted to be. So, that financial stress really affected my life in a number of different ways. Much like if you're having problems in your romantic relationship, it's not just exclusive to that relationship, it bleeds into other areas of your life too.
Yeah.
So I really had to start treating my relationship with money in such a way where I was being kinder to it, more
Mm,
respectful, more grateful for the money that I did have instead of thinking about how money wasn't there for me and the things I didn't do for me, how there was never enough. I really had to flip that script and be like, well, you know what? My money paid the electric bill this month and
yeah.
on time. Thank you so much, money. It's like those little things and expressing appreciation for
Mm.
my money in my own mind. So it was almost like personifying money, like giving it a personality or a character. And I would have conversations with it, and that helped me sort of approach it in a more curious and playful way instead of like a doomsday, oh my God, money is confusing and complicated and I hate it sort of
So
way.
smart. Yeah.
And that made a big difference, a really big difference.
I love that. Well, gosh, in that, um, I love that. Like, I'm listening to it. I'm like, oh, that's such a like in principle. I love that. Like, I'm sitting here, like, worrying with my own business. Like, finances have been a struggle. All of the things, and you're right. It does kind of consume every aspect of your life, and so
Mhm.
if you want to like switch that mindset, are there like practical strategies someone could put into place, or do you just have to like capture the thought and try to change the thought? Like if someone was listening, they're like, if they could do one thing right now to help me, is there a good place to start?
Yes. So, one bit of advice I used to always give my couples therapy clients is to have date nights.
Mm,
And this is something really common that we've all heard, right? And that the reason behind date nights is it helps us to prioritize that relationship. to make time for it, to
Yeah.
spend quality time together, to love up on each other, to play and laugh and have fun, right? And that's a way that we can stay connected in our relationships and love up on each other. I think you can do the very same thing with your money. And I think that's a great place to start in terms of changing the way that you think and feel and behave with money,
So good.
is start dating your money, right? Like set aside a money date, maybe once a week for an hour. It doesn't have to be a huge amount of time, but make it be consistent where you're taking that time to really pay attention to your money, to see where your money is going from one week to the next and what it's been up to. And, whether that means like pulling up your bank account and seeing what you're spending money on, or whether that means, creating a budget, or I like to call it a spending plan because budget feels very restrictive to me. So
Yes, I
I
like
don't
that.
use that word. Pulling up your spending plan and making plans for your money. Or it could be like a dreamy, swoon worthy money date where you're just making plans for the future. You're setting like maybe some business goals for yourself or what you're going to do with your money when it starts flowing in. And, like not in a pressured way to make that money, but just like a trust that it's going to happen with time. And you think to yourself, like, okay, like what fun things do I want to do with my money? As if it were making plans for future dates with your money. Do you want to go on a luxurious vacation, or do you want to donate to a great charity, or do you want to put your kids through college, or whatever that might look like? So the whole premise behind these money dates and dating your money is to make time for tending to your finances and to make it feel sort of fun and flirty,
Love that.
so that it's not something that you dread. It's something that you look forward to and it feels really pleasurable, just like you would a date with your sweetheart, right?
That's so good. And if you are in a romantic relationship and you're maybe sharing finances with a partner, is that something like that date? Is that something you should do together, or is that date something you should do on your own?
I think it can be both. I really think that the best method when it comes to finances is combining your financial power with your partner.
Yeah.
So that means approaching your finances like a team. So, but that doesn't just mean like working on money together. You also need to do that separately, right? Like,
So good.
just if I have a client who comes to me and they're like, okay, I'm struggling with some things in my relationship. Do I need couples therapy or do I need individual therapy? I'm going to say, well, you'd benefit from both, right?
Right.
Because we all have our own individual issues to work on. We have our own money beliefs, we have our own money stories, we have our own
Mm.
experiences with money that we need to sort through and work on. And sometimes rescript or reframe. And then our partners have those very same things to work on.
Yeah.
So it's great to do money dates individually, like I do them, my husband would do them, and then come together and have a money date together. Or you could even call that like a money meeting where
Oh,
you're sort
cute.
of talking about what has come up for each of you in your money dates or what you're recognizing you need to work on, and making a plan together about how you're going to do that as a team. But yeah, I mean, we all have our own psychological and emotional barriers when
Mm.
it comes to money. And those are really important things to talk about with your partner so that you can have a better understanding of where each of you are coming from, what your values are, what you want to use money for, how you think and feel about money. Because without that understanding, it can lead to a lot of money fights that really
Yes.
escalate out of control. I don't know if anybody can relate to that. I know I have been there many times.
I'll raise my hand.
Yeah, so it's not, I mean, like when couples fight about money, it's not really about the dollars and cents. It's more so about the feelings related to the money and the desire to have financial security
Mm.
and control, and to have the life that they want. That's really what it's about, is using money as a tool to have the life that you want. And sometimes we don't communicate very well about that. And that's something else that I do in my money therapy program, is I teach women how to have conversations about money in a calm, productive way, so
So
that they
good.
don't have to escalate out of control and lead to fights. And that includes conversations with partners, either business or romantic partners, or with clients and customers, because we
Mm,
have to have those conversations all the time in our business, and that can feel really icky.
yeah.
But we can navigate those conversations in a way that feels really good and really comfortable and can be really productive both for us and the client or customer that we're working with.
I love that because I know before we started recording, you had mentioned that something like 68% of women outsource their financial decision making. So that could be to like a partner or a dad or someone in their lives or that
Yeah.
they hire. And it seems to me, um, if you are someone who hasn't like had a comfortable relationship with money in the past, that even if you went straight to just like the money meeting with a partner and you hadn't done the prior work, you might just default to whatever they said, and eventually I feel like that could lead to resentment. But if you take the time to date money and have a relationship with money, you can kind of figure out how you feel about it and then bring your opinions as an
Yeah.
equal partner to the table, as opposed to leaning on somebody else to carry that weight for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really staggering statistic that keeps me awake at night, that almost
Yeah.
70% of women are sort of opting out of participating in their own financial lives, because it's really dangerous to not play a part in that, to not be making decisions for yourself financially, or to not know what's happening financially. And so I think that one of the reasons why women do that is because we get a lot of messages from society that tell us we're not good with numbers, we're not good at
Hmm.
math, we don't make good financial decisions, or we are raised in families where like dad is a breadwinner and he brings home the money and he manages the finances, or at least makes the big financial decisions. And, mom maybe contributed a little bit of income, but certainly wasn't the breadwinner. And we're seeing that dynamic change now too.
Yeah.
But if that's the framework that you are working within, then you're probably going to be less inclined to have a say in financial decisions, or take an active part in that. But statistically, we know that women tend to live longer than men by about 10 years
Oh,
longer.
wow.
We know that they need more money in retirement years because of that, because we're living to be older. So we need more money to
Mm.
sustain us throughout our lives. And we also know that women make less money than men because of the wage gap, which is
Mhm.
obvious. But we also take more time away from paid work to raise children, to care for aging parents, and those sorts of things.
Mm.
So we're earning less over the lifetime of our working years. So women face some really unique financial challenges that men typically don't face. So we need more money. We don't earn as much. And
Wow.
then you add that to not taking an active part in making financial decisions. You're basically trusting someone else to make decisions in your best interest. But I'm a big believer that I'm the expert on myself, you're the expert on yourself, because like you are the only person that knows your hopes, your dreams, and your values. No one else knows that. So to turn over the decisions to someone else, assuming that they know what you want and how you want
Yeah.
to live your life and what's important to you, is not a great idea. Because even if they're really great with money, they're not going to make the same decisions that you might make for yourself. And let's say, you have your spouse who's managing the finances. How will you know what to do with the finances and with the money, if you aren't involved in it? Like, what if your spouse dies, or what
I
if
was
they
just
become
thinking that.
incapacitated and can't take on that role anymore? That leaves you in a very vulnerable position, to kind of pick up the pieces from that and figure it out on your own. So I'm a big believer in being proactive and knowing that information, and playing an active part in that right from the beginning, so that there's no question you're making decisions that are really good for you. You know what's happening with your money, you know how much
Yeah.
is available to you, and you know how to manage that money effectively, now and forever, no matter what happens.
Such good advice. Yeah. As you were speaking, I was like, well, what happens when women don't have any control of their finances or knowledge of it? And if they're living longer, their spouse dies before them. And that's already so much emotion to handle, losing
Yeah.
your partner and then having to figure out like
Mhm.
bank passwords or like who gets
Yeah.
paid what or what's automatic. And and then you're
Mhm.
getting late fees or notices on top of having to deal with the grief. I just can't even imagine
Yeah.
that level of stress.
Yeah, or divorce too.
Yeah,
I mean, nobody wants to imagine that they're going to get divorced, but the
sure.
divorce rate is still at 49%.
It's crazy.
And so that happens all the time. And we need to be prepared for things like that, and sort of plan for worst case scenario, not to be like a doomsday sort of person, but
Sure.
it's a way to prepare and protect ourselves financially. And I think that's just a really smart thing to do, especially for women in business,
Mm,
because that carries with it a whole bunch of additional responsibilities. You're managing your own personal finances and you're managing your business finances too.
yeah,
So for any women in business, taking an active role in tending to your finances is even more important, because that's your livelihood, right?
yeah.
Making money in your business and making good decisions with that money. And all of our decisions are really influenced by the way that we think about money and the stories we tell ourselves about money and our previous experiences related to that. So, to get to the root of our money issues, we really need to do that deep inner work. It's not just about like balancing a checkbook or creating a budget. Those are like practical money management tools, which are also important. But if we don't change the way that we think and feel about money, then those thoughts and feelings are going to undermine any steps that we take to manage our money better.
That makes so much sense. And when you're working with people, are there certain like negative mindsets around money that pop up more often than others? Like, are there some more common ones, I guess?
Yeah, well, I think what you mentioned about sales is one thing that I see come up a lot,
Yeah.
that women have a hard time asking for money because we
Yeah.
have a hard time believing that we deserve it. I mean, we're sort of
Mm,
like stereotypically pretty nurturing creatures, we're selfless, we give to others. We've sort of been trained to do that. And
yeah.
so, when you're in business and you are selling something, it's like asking. I'm asking for
Mm,
something. So I see that come up a lot, where people are afraid to ask for a sale, or, ask someone to work with them, or ask someone to pay them on time, or ask them to pay their full rate. And so that creates problems right out of the gate, because then they're selling themselves short and they're not earning the money that they really deserve to support the lifestyle that they want. So we work on reframing that,
okay.
and shifting the way that we look at sales. And one of the things that I teach people how to do is to not look at it as selling, but to look at it as inviting. So
Ooh.
we are inviting clients to have an experience with us, or we are inviting customers to experience the benefits of the product that we are selling. And it's just like a dinner party invitation. Like, we're just going to throw it out there. We're going to tell them what that experience will be like for them. And we're going to say, we would love for you to join in on this if it sounds fun to you. If not, no worries, right? Like, they can
Yeah.
decline the invitation, no pressure, but we would love for them to attend that experience and participate in that with us. And I think that that really changes the feeling
Mm,
related to sales. So it doesn't feel icky and slimy and sleazy and manipulative. It feels
yeah.
more nurturing and giving and caring. And like we are offering something really wonderful to someone else in exchange for money. And that can make a big difference. But there are a whole lot of different types of challenges that come up that are similar among clients.
Mm,
Like this idea that money is sort of elusive or hard to get is
yeah.
one that's really prevalent, or that you have to work super, super hard to make a
Mm.
lot of money or save a lot of money, or that you have to deprive yourself of every single pleasure in life to get ahead.
Just
Um,
like check, check,
yeah, yeah, so
check.
those come up a lot, a lot, and I used to think that same way about money. I thought that in order to save money or to invest money, or, to grow wealth, that I would have to give up every little thing and never do anything fun and never get my, pumpkin spice latte and, all that stuff. But I've learned, and what I help other people learn, is that that is just a story that we tell ourselves, and
Mm,
that isn't necessarily true. Like, beliefs feel like facts, but they're really just made up stories.
oh, that's good.
And that's one of those things that comes up for a lot of people. And what we really need to work on doing is creating a healthier belief that that helps us to have a healthier relationship with money.
Gosh, that is all just so good. I was like, oh man, I thought I was doing pretty all right with my money relationship, and as you're talking, I'm like, I think we got some more work to do. So
We are all works in progress. We'll never have it figured out. Just like if you were in a relationship, it changes over time. You will never stop working on that relationship ever, ever, ever
Amen.
until you're dead, right? And the same thing goes with money, because we will forever be in a relationship with money for as long as we live. We are always earning money every day, making decisions with money every day, spending money every day. So money is a huge part of our lives.
Yeah.
And as such, we are always going to be tending to that relationship and working on it. We are all works in progress. It's not about being perfect with money. It's just about being a little bit better today than we were yesterday. I think that's the other thing too, is that a lot of guilt and shame come up
Mm,
around money, or these thoughts of like, I should be better at this.
yeah.
I should be further ahead. I should have more money. I shouldn't be spending so much. And those should statements just make us feel so much guilt. So that's something that, we do a lot of work around in money therapy as well, is to change that dialogue, to replace those should statements
Mm,
with it would be nice or I wish. So there isn't this sense of like duty or obligation involved, but it's extending some grace to ourselves,
yeah.
to not have it all figured out, but also have a commitment to continuing to work on that and improve our financial relationship over time.
Gosh, so good. Nicole, this has been just so helpful. Oh my goodness. For anyone who wanted to work with you after listening to this podcast, they're like, oh my gosh, she's speaking to my soul. I want to date my money. I want to make it fun and flirty. How do they get a hold of you? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so I have a free planner. It's called the Date Your Money Planner, and you can grab that on my website at NicoleLacovoni.com. And that gives you a great place to start for dating your money. It also gives you 7 sexy money date ideas so that
So
you can
cute.
add some fun and playful money dates to your calendar. And I also have a swoon-worthy blog called The Comfy Couch, and that's also at my website at NicoleLacovoni.com. So I would love to meet people through there and connect with them and see how I might be able to support them on their financial journey.
Amazing. And we'll link to all of that in the show notes too. But gosh, that'll. Hey guys, thanks for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, which I hope you did, make sure you subscribe so that you never miss what's next. If you really enjoyed it, I'd be super grateful if you could leave a review on iTunes or anywhere that you listen. And if you really enjoyed it, then I'd love if you'd share it with a friend. Last but not least, make sure you're following us on Instagram at The Vendor's Daughter for a behind-the-scenes look at my personal and professional life, and for what I hope is a little bit of daily inspiration as we walk this crazy journey together.